More than 1 in 3 people will face cancer in their lifetime. Unfortunately, fear can stop you from getting your cancer screening, but it won't stop cancer. Early detection can save your life. Don't wait for symptoms to appear to act. Cancer screening is safe, effective, and accessible for everyone, including free or low-cost screening programs. Go to cancerscreeninfo.com right now for free screening resources and recommendations from the American Cancer Society. Don't wait. Early detection can save your life. Go to cancerscreeninfo.com today. Cancerscreeninfo.com.
You know when you order a new video game, or a golf club, or a blender, and then it arrives at your door, you get a little thrill. Imagine how much more thrilling it is when you order a new car. With Nissan at home, you can shop for the perfect ride and order it without ever having to go anywhere. Sure beats a golf club or a blender. Buy a new car entirely online with Nissan at home. Delivered direct from dealer to driveway. Thrill starts here. Services may vary at participating dealers, subject to applicable law. See dealer for details.
Get informed, get inspired, and get connected. CannabisRadio.com presents NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice. The National Cannabis Industry Association is the only national trade organization representing the businesses of the legal cannabis industry. NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice covers a range of topics, including the rapidly evolving political and policy changes that affect our industry, news and events of importance to cannabis professionals, and features on companies, individuals, and campaigns at the cutting edge of the cannabis industry. NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice begins now.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice on Cannabis Radio. I'm your host, Bethany Moore. I'm the Deputy Director of Communications at the National Cannabis Industry Association. Today, my guest is John Shearman. He's the Vice President of Marketing and Cannabis Business Lead at Applied DNA Sciences. He's got over 30 years of deep enterprise and advertising agency experience across all marketing, sales, and IT disciplines. His experience allows him to advise on structuring sound strategies that address business goals and objectives. His extensive technology background stems from working with several leading technology companies throughout his career. He spearheads Applied DNA Sciences cannabis vertical, leading the vision, strategy, and product development for this emerging market. John also oversees the marketing for the entire company, driving the marketing strategy for its other core verticals. Welcome to the show today, John.
Thank you, Bethany. Glad to be here with you.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to start by hearing more about your background and experience and some of the other work you did before getting involved in the cannabis sector.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I have over 30 years experience as a sales and marketing professional in the technology industry. And I had the pleasure to work with and had as advertising clients, major brands such as IBM, Toshiba, Panasonic, Motorola, and Symbol Technologies. And I worked in the advertising industry for almost 10 years when the commercial World Wide Web of all things were just starting off in 94. So yeah, it was an awesome time. Everything was going nuts. There was literally probably 50 to 100 websites at the time when it was just starting out. So it was really cool. So that reminds me, it's very similar to the cannabis industry that we're seeing today. And all the innovation that's taken place, the brand new solutions that are being put in place, establishing standards, regulations, and the sense of community. And that's been awesome to see happening in the cannabis space right now. And that kind of, relates back to my experience and working with these other technology companies.
Absolutely. I was a teenager when the internet became a thing, and it just changed the world, and it became exciting as we were heading toward the year 2000, which just seemed like the future at that point. The numbers are changing. It must mean we're going to have hoverboards any year now.
Well, back then it was, Google was just starting up and Amazon and all those companies. I mean, literally just starting. And it was wonderful to come up in that industry and see it all grow and to what it is today. It's amazing.
Certainly. So how did you make that shift from that field into saying, I think I want to do this with cannabis, some people have, a story as to how they got involved into cannabis. I wonder what yours is.
Yes, let me take you through that. So I got involved in the cannabis through the current company, which is Applied DNA. Let me just give you a little bit and then I'll branch right into that. So we use molecular technology, right, to put unique identifiers onto raw materials and finished goods that track across the global supply chains. And we do it in different industries. So a company approached us in 2017 and said, hey, all that great stuff you're doing in textiles and nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals, do you think you could do that for the cannabis industry? And we said, absolutely. So we got into a partnership with them, and then that led us into the space. But at the same time, my wife was recovering from spine surgery, and she was going through a lot of post-surgeries pain
Yikes.
and pain management. So she was going to a pain management doctors, and of course, they're trying to put her on very high meds and stuff of that nature. And she didn't want to go through it, so she was taking shots and stuff like that, cortisone shots up the neck. So at the time, I was saying, why don't we think about cannabis for you? And then her doctor also recommended that as well. So then we went to a cannabis specialist, and she then enrolled in the New York Medical Cannabis Program. And she explored using vapes and tinctures. And at the same time, I was getting really informed what was going on in the industry and all these different treatments. And thank God this helped her through a lot of that pain and really worked for her. But it was going through an exploratory for her, which was interesting. And now we see firsthand how it's helping her on a daily basis, which is wonderful.
Wow. Kudos to you all for seeking out alternative treatments. I think we all know that there's an opioid crisis
Yes.
across the country, in the world, and doing everything you can to avoid that medicine if you can, I think is great. And also kudos to the medical professional, the doctor who was brave enough and actually knew that it could help in order to recommend it. So that is fantastic to see. So I'm happy to hear that she's able to use cannabis to manage that pain.
Yes. Yes.
For
And it was
sure.
great to see. So both of those led me into the cannabis space. And
Yeah.
here we are today.
Well, thank you for sharing that story, and I hope she's doing well today.
She is. She's doing better. Thank you.
Great. And now, as we're kicking off 2021 here in the future,
Yes.
yeah. So, what's going on with Applied DNA Sciences? Tell me more about what the company's up to and what you're doing day to day.
Yes, absolutely. So, like I was mentioned before, our base technology is using molecular technology to put unique identifiers onto raw materials, finished products. We've done it in the textile industry. We've tagged over 250 million pounds of cotton, if you could believe that. That's a big number. And that again gets tracked all the way around the world. It might come out of the Central Valley of California, then go over to China, and we track it there and we test it. And then from there, it goes over to India to be made into bed sheets and towels, and then ends up on Bed Bath & Beyond and Costco shelves. So that technology we had taken and now brought that into the cannabis industry. And what we're doing now is we're able to tag the actual plant if that's needed to be tagged and tracked, but we can also put it into the oils and isolates that will be made into other products like I was mentioning before, tinctures, edibles, oils that can go into vapes and of that nature. So all bringing all that together right now over the last 2 years, there is a lot of interest. So we have, especially coming out of the processing groups around the world right now, looking to get ready for international commerce eventually down the road when the borders start coming down. Companies in the United States are looking at the same thing to manage their operations within state and be compliant and have this and be able to help with standards as well as their IP protection as well when they bring new products to market. So by bringing that all together, we're bringing a very unique solution to the industry that ties in with a lot of the other technology platforms that are out there.
Gotcha. Wow, that's a really cool story to hear, the life cycle of, you used cotton as an example. Like that's I'm wearing tons of cotton. I use cotton every day, and the technology in agriculture, in cannabis, of course, as well, but just in agriculture in general is fascinating to hear how much technology goes into something we think of as so, in the ground playing with dirt. Like, it's actually quite high tech these days.
Well, you
We are
see,
living in the future.
yeah, you see, I know more about cotton than I ever thought I would know in my whole life. And I've gone to the cotton fields and the ginning process, and you go on those large combines, the cotton picking machines, the GPS systems that are tied to that, they get down to the square foot of where a plant is planted. It's unbelievable, Bethany. The technology that, just in that one sector of the agricultural world is phenomenal. And those are the things that can come forward into all these other industries as well. So it's really an amazing to see these solutions being put together and how they're managing water and conserving water and sustainability. It's really nice to see.
Absolutely. And before we take our first commercial break, I want to mention one of the blogs that you contributed to NCIA's website on thecannabisindustry.org. Back in July, we have a lot of really interesting content from our members about how COVID-19 has impacted the way we do business, has impacted the industry. And in that blog from July 7th, 2020, it's called COVID-19 and the Impact on Cannabis. You penned that for NCIA, and also mentioned how your wife stocked up on cannabis for 3 months during COVID,
She
just
did.
in case.
She
I
did.
think we all were stocking up a little because, well, we didn't want to leave the house as much either,
It absolutely did. And you saw it, and you actually saw that push go up in the market, right? You see the data point for those 3 months, and everyone had the same, because we weren't sure. That was right before
I know.
it was declared an essential business, remember? So everyone
For
had the
sure.
same thought. So yeah,
How
we actually,
great it was declared an essential business in everywhere but Massachusetts, from what I understand.
yeah, no, it was a good moment for the cannabis industry for sure.
NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice will return once we give a voice to our sponsors.
Does everyone need customer support today?
We've got you. Intercom has the tools to manage support at any scale, like integrations, bots, and more. All in one powerful platform. We'll even automatically resolve 33% of your support volume, so you have more time for customers who need you most.
Oh, that's better.
Supercharge your team's productivity and make your customers super happy with Intercom. Learn more at intercom.com/support.
Today, my guest is Dr. Tara Couch with EAS Consulting, where she serves as Senior Director for Dietary Supplement and Tobacco Services. Dr. Couch is a PhD analytical organic chemist with over 25 years of diverse laboratory and regulatory experience in academic, field, contract, and manufacturing environments. Tara serves on various industry committees for the Council for Responsible Nutrition, Consumer Healthcare Products Association, and the Food Drug Law Institute. She's also active in the American Herbal Products Association. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Boy, there's an association for everything, isn't there?
Yeah, I always feel old when somebody reads off all of that.
Well, let's learn more about you. You've got, obviously you have a PhD, so let's learn more about your background and experience before moving anywhere near cannabis.
Yes, I'm a PhD analytical organic chemist. So I come from the laboratory and regulatory environment, and started in academia for quite a few years, and then moved into manufacturing environment of pharmaceuticals and dietary supplements. Then I went into consulting a number of years later, and in that space, I live in the state of Colorado, and Colorado, of course, was the first state to pass, legislation for allowing cannabis products within the state. So I had some colleagues that went into the cannabis industry, and as I went into consulting, I began assisting them also developing quality systems and making sure that they would consistently manufacture products to a specification obviously in lieu of any sort of regulations, because Colorado kind of got ahead of itself first voting it in and then suddenly had to come up with some regulations. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. So with the work you've done before, and you're still active with the American Herbal Products Association, there's some crossover, obviously. I mean, I think it's easy for most listeners to go, oh, herbal products, oh, cannabis.
Right.
There's some similarities, but I'm guessing your work in those fields. I mean, what's the regulatory environment like there, and like what kinds of things did you work on there?
Well, I'm actually at EAS, I'm responsible for 3 different areas. So I'm responsible for dietary supplements, tobacco, and cannabis. And of course, I have background in pharmaceuticals as well. So I'm kind of in lots of different spaces, and each area is quite different. So on the dietary supplement side, which is the one, like you said, which is clearly the one that people can think is most relatable usually to cannabis, at least in terms of the ingredient itself. We got regulations from the FDA underneath the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act back in 1997. So it was, 1994, quite some time ago. And then in 2007, the FDA issued Good Manufacturing Practice Regulations. So 14 years later, that happened. So the industry has been dealing with them for now 10 plus years and getting adjusted to that. But the dietary supplement industry has just ballooned since the passage of the Good Manufacturing Practice Regulations that dictate how they manufacture. So it's been a challenge to see how the industry is handling that. We had the reputation of being the wild, wild west, which we had earned. And now, people are starting to come into compliance with that. And actually on the tobacco side, tobacco didn't come underneath the regulation of the FDA until 2009 with the package of the Tobacco Control Act, or the TCA. And that was initially for cigarettes and smokeless tobacco products. And then in 2016, so much more recently, was extended to all of these other new products, often referred to as ENDS, electronic nicotine delivery systems, e-cigarettes, salts, hookah, cigars, all this other stuff was also came underneath that same act in 2016. So they have not gotten yet good manufacturing practices from the FDA, so are awaiting those. So they're sort of in that space that the dietary supplement world was in that 14-year gap.
Gotcha.
So people are trying to come up with something to put together in a quality type of system that would be consistent with the GMP. And then you have cannabis that, from the FDA's perspective, having CBD in products or any of the cannabinoids in a product can't happen in a food or a dietary supplement. There's just right now totally illegal. So they're kind of behind. So dietary supplements was first, and then tobacco, and then hopefully cannabis in the next few years. The FDA will do something with that. So all three are very dynamic, but at different points in their regulatory life cycle, I would say.
Very holistic background to be able to bring to a very unique industry like ours, the cannabis industry, where it is a wellness product, but it's also a fun product, and it's it's some regulated like alcohol, but not exactly. We're kind of unique. So with all that background you have, I think you mentioned some of your colleagues had started to move into cannabis. What was your reason for making that shift and really sparking your interest to take it professionally?
Well, like I said, I live here in Colorado, and so obviously the industry was huge right away, and making sure that products are made with quality expectations, because a lot of people jumped into the market, that really had no idea of how to make a product that's going to be ingested by somebody and make sure that that's safe, and didn't even honestly think about some of those things. But then you had people on the other side of that came from pharmaceuticals or from dietary supplements that did want to bring those in, those good practices into the world of making those products. So it was kind of crazy in the beginning. So I began helping because, that's just something I'm really good at, is getting into a facility and then helping them build good systems to make sure that they consistently manufacture product to their quality standard.
Excellent, excellent. So we're definitely going to take a deeper dive into good manufacturing practices later in the show.
Right.
But where we're at now, you're with the company EAS Consulting, you're a member of NCIA, obviously COVID this last year, 2020, and still today is kind of impacting everything everywhere.
Absolutely.
But what's your company focused on this year, and what are you really doing going forward?
Well, yeah, 2020 has been a crazy year in every aspect, right? But as a consulting firm, EAS specializes in all FDA regulated areas. So not just my three, dietary supplements, tobacco, and of course the cannabis area, but also foods, pharmaceuticals, medical device, veterinary products, cosmetics. So we really work in all those spaces. So when COVID hit, obviously, travel was restricted. We do a lot of travel to go visit our clients and respond to the enforcement actions that the FDA has taken. If the FDA can't get out and do inspections of facilities and do enforcement, then there's nothing to react to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's been quite a roller coaster year for us. That said, now with technology, you can do a lot of things remotely.
Mm-hmm.
So we've managed to adjust to that. So there was kind of a lull for a bit, but clients have adjusted to that. And I actually just this last fall went through a series of numerous virtual audits that I did for clients all over the world. And sometimes that meant I was starting the audit at 2 a.m. my time. But we've managed to make those things work. And instead of doing in-person trainings, we've done virtual trainings. And of course, we use a lot of internet type of tools to work with clients and make sure that the quality isn't lost during all of this. I mean, now more than ever, it's so important that the products that people are taking are safe, and people are so concerned about their health for good reason.
Absolutely. I know. I feel like I used to get on an airplane like 5 times a month, and now I'm just on 5 Zoom calls a day. So
I know. I had just made global services the year before.
No. Oh, gosh. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. And thanks everyone else for tuning in to another episode of NCIA's Cannabis Industry Voice. Until next time.
The opinions expressed on this CannabisRadio.com program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of CannabisRadio.com. Any rebroadcast, republication, or retransmission of this program without proper consent is prohibited.
Gearheads know that some projects need so many parts, it feels like you need a whole storage unit just to store them. That's what eBay Motors' 122 million parts are for. Think of it as your virtual parts garage. They've always got the right fitment at the right prices. Use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
You know when you order a new video game, or a golf club, or a blender, and then it arrives at your door, you get a little thrill. Imagine how much more thrilling it is when you order a new car. With Nissan at home, you can shop for the perfect ride and order it without ever having to go anywhere. Sure beats a golf club or a blender. Buy a new car entirely online with Nissan at Home. Delivered direct from dealer to driveway. Thrill starts here. Services may vary at participating dealers, subject to applicable law. See dealer for details.